Okay guys, so in this presentation we're going to go over how to train in the off season if you're a team sport athlete. Um, so the opportunities that are presented to athletes in the off season are that they can dedicate more time and effort to physical preparation training. So the reason for this is because there's no training prescribed from the club staff, and that there's no need to perform well in competitions. So competitions are months away. We don't need to be peaked, and we have no real training prescribed from the club. So what we can do is we can put as much time and effort available as we want into other forms of training that we probably don't get the opportunity to train as much as we'd like during the season in order to develop. So in the annual plan, we're talking about this area here. This is going to be the off season. So usually it's going to be anywhere between 6 and 12 weeks long. I've made this 8-week off season in this example annual training plan. And as you can see here, these are the qualities that we want to work on in terms of speed, power, strength, and conditioning. We sort of want to do more acceleration and maybe some max speed training, depending on how long we have. Power, we want to stick with more of that slow power, so we don't really want to do intensive plyometrics and that sort of thing. The strength, we probably want either hypertrophy or general strength based on the specific needs of the athlete and the sport. And conditioning might not actually be necessary at all, or if it is going to be included, really general aerobic conditioning is probably the way to go. So the objectives we sort of just covered. With the speed training, we want acceleration or max speed, or you might want to do a sort of a slow transition over 8 weeks from shorter duration acceleration to reaching max speeds by the end of it, depending again on how much time you have available, what you're going to do during the season, etc. Power, they want to stick with the higher load type activities with lower velocity, so things like weighted jumps, heavy throws, that sort of thing, as opposed to depth jumps and fast plyometrics. So in terms of strength, this is probably the best time to get some hypertrophy. If you're in a sport like rugby or American football or something like that, hypertrophy training is going to be pretty difficult to do in season. So this is a really good time to do that, where you can accumulate the volumes needed, because it's very difficult to do that in season. If hypertrophy is not really needed, probably general strength is the way to go, more in that sort of 5 to 8 rep range, building some general strength. In terms of conditioning, it's probably not necessary to do any conditioning, but if it's required that you need to build more conditioning, then sort of more general aerobic conditioning is recommended. Probably some sort of cross training from being beat up from the last season. So things like, if you're in a running sport, things like cycling and swimming and lower loading of the joints, that sort of activity is going to be beneficial to allow your joints and tissues to recover from the previous season. And so the principles we want to address basically in the off season is that we want an accumulation of volume with lower intensity. So in this graph, I just have an example, a visual sort of representation of what I mean. We want volume to start accumulating over a few weeks, and intensity can probably stay the same or maybe gradually increase a little bit. But the main thing is that we want an accumulation of volume, because that's what we can't really get during the season. The intensity is not necessary because we don't have to be peaked at this point in time. We don't need to lift heavy, we don't need to be fast, we don't need to be that explosive at this point in time. This is going to help us build robustness, which is probably a pretty crucial thing to help you last throughout the entire season, with avoiding injury and just being able to tolerate the intensity and volumes required during the season. Some sports are playing multiple games per week. Also, in the off season is a good time to address current injuries that may have still be lingering from the previous season, or long-term injuries that you don't really get a rest from during the season. So that's a good time to address them. And basically, what it all comes down to is we want to prepare our bodies physically for the coming season. So not only in terms of performance, but also in terms of injury prevention. We want to be able to tolerate the stresses imposed to us that for the following season. That's it for this short presentation. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you got something out of it.